Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Group 5 Deep Dive presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined by my Action Network co-host Duck. And before we get into everything in Week 11 in the G5 universe, we got to sound off real quick. And beforehand, I had a little something before we started recording. I was firing off on defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators and pace, and it didn't fit. It didn't have a structure. It didn't have a narrative. Whereas Duck sounding off here this week, a little midweek Conference USA farewell in iambic pentameter. Yes, you heard that right, or at least he's going to give it his best shot. He's got a poem for those out there listening. Why don't you take it away? Move us with your lyrics and your poetry here.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to say goodbye to weekday CUSA. I really had no other way to say it other than we get to say goodbye to weekday CUSA. No one is more delighted to see you go away. You suckered us in with your tempting appeal. Tuesday, Wednesday action was enough to seal the deal. Kennesaw, Liberty, I bid you adieu. UTEP, Sam Houston, and even FIU. For the calendar has turned past November the 1st, and weekday CUSA, you have proven to be the worst. With baffling coaching gaffes, missed kicks, drop passes, sketchy refereeing, man, I want to kick their asses. You've solidified your spot at the bottom of G5, and now we're off to the conference that makes us feel alive. For action is upon us, and yes, I've shed a tear. I say goodbye to you now, Conference USA, until the middle of next year.
Before we get into our bets, let's toss it over to Stuckey. How could he follow up on that? But he's got something in the can recorded already. Stuckey, a quick word from our sponsor, DraftKings.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. And in partnership with DraftKings, BBOC listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. That's code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings for 3 months of NBA League Pass and $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
Thanks, Duck. Now, as we get into our best bets for the week, if you'd like to tail some of the bets that you hear in today's episode, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video descriptions, or visit actionnetwork.com/betnow. Or even better, sign up for Action Pro, where you'll get immediate notifications when any Action Network expert logs a bet. That's Duck, Stuckey, Colin, myself, everyone on the team across every single sport that we cover. Right now, you can use promo code BBOC20 when signing up for $20 off an annual subscription. So if you don't have Action Pro yet, the best time to do it is right now. Use code BBOC20 to get on board. And with that, it's time to talk best bets here in Week 11. I am still mired in a losing streak, so Duck, you have to take it away here and hopefully get us off to what will be a 4-0 Week 11.
Yeah, let's start off. I'm laying it with Oregon State. This is just an absolute spot play to play the Beavers off of back-to-back wins, and the attitude of this defense has completely changed with Rob Akey at the helm. These guys are playing with attitude, flying to the football. 2 games in a row now, allowing less than 300 yards and less than 4 yards per play combined. The Beaver offense is going to have a little fun here, going up against a Sam Houston State defense that is just the absolute worst in Conference USA with a wide margin. These guys just gave up 647 yards against Louisiana Tech, 11 yards per play. It's the worst tackling defense in the country. Sam Houston has been shredded by every team they've played up and down the field. Oregon State's going to score a bunch of points here in this one, similar to what they did against Lafayette. A major fun spot for Oregon State and a major turd spot for Sam Houston. So 19.5, 20, I'm laying it with Oregon State.
Yeah, this can be a difficult thing to kind of suss out, where the worst team in FBS is not the 136th best team in America. That's not the way it works. For someone who follows the FCS so closely, you know that there's FCS teams that can play in the 60s or 70s in some of the national rankings, and there's also FBS teams that are barely top 200. How low would you go on Sam Houston?
Probably 40th in FCS is about where I'd put them. So they're down there. I mean, they're down there a ways with some of the middling Big Sky teams, or Illinois State. That sort of is where I'd power rate them. They're really, really down.
Sorry to any Redbird fans out there catching a stray. That was not my intention when I laid that out. All right, I'm going to go with my best bet here. I'm going to go with UConn, a home dog, catching 9.5. Let's zoom out for a second. Jim Moore Jr., he's been a fascinating story to me. For some reason, in the coaching carousel in the last couple of years, he's flown under the radar. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. But when you look at his career, like Lane Kiffin, he had a famous dad who was a coach, coached in college, coached in the NFL, gave him a bit of a leg up. But he certainly didn't skip any of the steps. He was, after his playing career, he was a GA at the University of Washington, then quality control job in the NFL, then a DB coach for a long time, then a DC for 5 years, finally gets his first NFL head coaching job, takes the Falcons and Mike Vick to the NFC title game. Then from there, nothing more than a 500 coach. Not abysmal, but that wasn't enough for the ownership group there in Atlanta. He gets canned. And then comes his shot at college, where he starts off hot at UCLA, 29-11 in his first 3 years, and then kind of following the NFL script, he's mediocre after that, 17-19, and he gets canned. So this was the job, really, to say, hey, you had UCLA on the verge of being a top 10 team at the very height of your coaching job there in Los Angeles. Can you build from nothing and show that you deserve a second chance, to be able to have kind of a renaissance in your career? Before he arrived at UConn, they were nothing. Actually, they were less than nothing. When you look at, it's the scene from Moneyball. There's good teams, there's bad teams, there's 100 feet of shit, and then there was UConn football. Because they were 4-35 in their previous 39 games before Moore showed up. And for some reason, I think people forget that, where they look at, some of his seasons. I think one, he went 6-7. They're like, oh, that's not very good. That's great for UConn. They are on a recruiting island out in New England. There's really no pipeline to get there in terms of, poaching recruits, paying recruits. It's a basketball school. And then all of a sudden, what has he done? He's got them on the verge of winning 9 games again this season, which would be the second straight year of that. And also, they're undefeated in regulation this year. So I think this UConn team and Moore Jr. is an underrated story. They're 5-3 as a home dog under Moore since he arrived, with 3 outright upsets. And to keep it simple, the Duke defense can stop the run, but they can't stop the pass. We all saw it last week against Clemson. UConn first in havoc avoidance in the entire country. So they always stay ahead of the sticks. They're 28th in pass EPA, and there's a balance between quality drives and explosives. They're both in the mid-30s there. So they can score quickly or they can march the ball down the field. Fignano is having, let's just say what it is at this point, an absurd season. He's approaching 70% completion rate, 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, last 4 games, 15 passing touchdowns. Duke has trouble on the back end. They were never able to replace Moore, who struggled to come back from that ACL injury in the bowl game. They've really missed him. Good luck slowing down Skylar Bell in this game. He's on pace for 100 receptions, 1,300 yards, 15 TDs. He's a problem. He's going to be an NFL draft pick. The other side of this is simple, and it's the reason I'm not on the UConn money line. Can the Huskies get any stops? I think they can offer some resistance. If you look at it, I know that Mensa has been absolutely cooking lately, but almost every single grade from a secondary perspective for UConn is better than Clemson, which is kind of weird to say here in the year of our Lord 2025. But I think it's going to be more difficult for Mensa to throw the ball downfield than it was last week in Death Valley. And speaking of, this is a classic letdown game for Duke. They just beat Clemson. They got UConn in a sandwich spot, then Virginia on deck, all with a shot to play in the ACC title game if they win out and everything shakes out in their favor. So I think this is a look past it. I'd love to get 10, but I'm not going to keep my money on the sidelines. I'm going to go ahead with the Huskies plus 9.5 as a home dog. All right, I'm going to kick it to you for your second best bet here in Week 11, Duck.
Yeah, and I like that UConn spot too. I mean, it's real hard to imagine Duke is showing up for anything more than just, middling effort here off that big win, and has no bearing on the conference. So I really like that one. All right, next one for me is Thursday night. South Florida team total over 41.5. The home road splits for UTSA are staggering this year. And while they did give a spirited effort against Tulane and they were able to defend the Alamo Dome, I do not see this defense being able to pin down one of the elite G5 offenses that we've seen this season. UTSA only has 6 sacks this year in league play. Really weak in the defensive line are the Roadrunners, one of the worst pass rushes in the entire conference. And this is the perfect opponent situationally and matchup scheme-wise for South Florida to really put up a monster point total against. UTSA has given up over 1,000 combined yards the last 2 weeks, over 7 yards of play. They're not going to be able to stop the run here. And so then what will USF do? Their offense works best when they're able to gash right between the center and the guard, pop you for 6-7 yards at a time, and then they run play action off of it, and they find guys wide open right down the middle. That will likely be what we see here. There's a chance that Chaz Nimrod is coming back, which will help boost the receiver room for South Florida. And then another part of the handicap here, there is a major, major chance that USF is going to find themselves in tiebreaker scenarios in the conference, and margin of victory is going to matter for the computer rankings. Golish has never been shy about pouring it on at home, and I would expect this offense to be absolutely lights out this week. I think they'll be close to putting up a 50 spot here. So team total is over 41.5. I like that number. I'm taking the over.
I'm going to throw in my 2 cents real quick. This is out of my 2-minute drill. I like the Roadrunners. If they can get to 14, I'll take it plus 13.5. You nailed on all the points. Their defense has been dreadful this year. And essentially, it's just because you can't have it happen every single year in the portal where your best defensive player leaves and gets paid to go play for a Power 4 program. Eventually, that catches up to you, which it has for the Roadrunners. But offensively, they're looking unstoppable. I mean, McCown played this trick exactly last year where he got red hot at the end of the year. The difference is this time around, Robert Henry, William Henderson III, it gives them offensive balance. And when you look at South Florida, they're one of the worst tackling teams in the entire country. And if UTSA is successful in balancing the run and the pass, there's going to be a lot of one-on-one scenarios. They're not going to be able to stack the box to stop Robert Henry. And McCown has been so accurate. I think he completed his first 20-something passes in the last game, getting people open in space. I think there's a potential for this to be an absolute insane track meet of a game that's played in the 80s, if not 90s. So I'm going to take the points and hang around. But I also like your South Florida play because I can't point to a single thing, either metrically or having watched multiple UTSA games this year. I have no faith in the defense. Jess Lepp, their defensive coordinator, is somebody that I believe in. He just doesn't have the horses. And there's nowhere to hide against a South Florida offense that's going to spread you out and put your defenders on island. So I just want to throw that out there before I get to my second best bet. All right, let's go to Southern Miss laying 4.5. Let's roll back the tape, though, for a second. We banged the drum for Southern Miss, 40-1 to win the belt, 30-1 to win the belt, 25-1 to win the belt. Still a good number there back in August. You know where they are today? Plus 310. They're the second favorite to win this conference, and with good reason. The offense is really playing at a consistent level because Braxton now has a running game. He's getting Pittman back, by the way, in the fold, who was running the ball so efficiently before he got injured. Huff says that he's going to be carrying the rock on Saturday. That is great news for this Eagles offense. This is key because Arkansas State is pretty good against the run, at least by Sun Belt standards, but they're substandard against the pass across the board, including a really weak pass rush. So if you have balance and you make them defend both, you're going to be able to move the football. Now, Arkansas State, on the other side of things, offensively, they've just not been impressive to me in belt play. Against UL Monroe, against South Alabama, Georgia Southern, Troy, they averaged just 22 points in those games. Yes, they got to 31 against Texas State. That's one of the worst defenses in the Sun Belt, with 21 of those points, by the way, coming in a frantic fourth quarter. So the issue is pretty simple when I look at the Red Wolves. They can't run the ball at all without Cross, getting injured earlier in the season. They don't have any pop on the ground. So this goes like this, in my opinion. If they're one-dimensional, you're up against a USM pass, defense that is efficient. I think their offense will be able to get to 28 points. I think this is an opportunity to take them down because when you look at the metrics for the Eagles, they're ninth across the board, ninth in these rankings. Passing success rate D, pass rush, and pass EPA. They're also 15th in Havoc. So I think this is playing right into their hands. And Rainier, by the way, is a quarterback that always gives defenders an opportunity to get an interception. He's that Oprah meme. You get one, everybody gets an interception. He has 17 turnover-worthy plays this year. That's the most in the G5. So I'll go ahead and lay this. This number has moved down a little bit. I liked it all the way up to the edge of a full touchdown, laying 6.5, but 4.5, I'm going to go ahead and grab it. The team that I believed in long before the season started. The secret's out on them, but I don't think the gambling public has caught up. All right, Duck, take us into the 4-minute offense. We got a big one in the American between Memphis and Tulane.
Yeah, and Tulane was just flat out embarrassed last week on the road in that hostile Alamo Dome environment, and really they had it coming to them. The Green Wave have been so fortunate this season, benefiting from turnover luck and opponent mistakes. I felt like they've been playing with fire. Close wins against South Alabama, ECU, and Army were really indicative, in my opinion, of a football team that just really is not as good as their record shows. It sounds like Brendan Lewis is a full go at practice this week, and he'll be ready for this one for Memphis. He's really going to be big in the run game, which has been really effective this season for the Tigers. Tulane bottom 30 in FBS in defensive rush play success rate and EPA per rush surrendered. And I just don't think Tulane is going to be able to move the ball here against the Memphis front. Memphis is fourth defensively in EPA per rush allowed. Just not going to be much here for Tulane on the ground. Now you're going to ask Jake Retzlaff to make plays with his arm on the road against one of the better graded coverage units in this conference. I just don't think he's that good of a passer. I think Retzlaff, he's kind of fun to watch. He runs around a little bit back there, but 5 big-time throws, 12 turnover-worthy plays this season for Retzlaff, and he just does not connect on the deep shots. When you look at what they do and when they throw the ball deep, he is just not connecting on those deep shots this season for Tulane. The Memphis front is really good at providing pressure to the opposing quarterbacks. Even though the sack numbers haven't been there for Memphis, I think this defense is able to control the line of scrimmage against Tulane, make the wave uncomfortable. They're going to force Tulane into passing situations. Tulane's not going to line up and run the football. So there's going to be a lot put on the arm of Jake Retzlaff. I think that spells trouble. I think Memphis is better in all 3 phases here, offense, defense, and special teams. They have a real opportunity to really take pole position in the American. I think they win this game. I laid the 6 here with the Tigers.
Do you put any stock in this, or do you potentially go from a play to keeping your money on the sideline? This coaching carousel this year is insane. Summerall is clearly, unless he loses out this year or they fall apart or there's some kind of vetting process that shows a major skeleton in his closet, he's getting one of these jobs. Either one of the big jobs or kind of a domino effect where another Power 4 job comes open because somebody hops up. He's going to be a lot richer come next year. Does that factor in for you at all in terms of, we often see it in the autopsy of a game where it's like, man, that team came out flat. And then, 24 hours later, their coach is out the door. They're not prepping for it. They're going through the motions. Their head is in a different place. All these things that we learn after the fact. Do you put that in to any of your handicaps? Consider it at all with, there's so many coaches. I just talked about Duke. Manny Diaz is certainly on the radar for Penn State, but at least in terms of his preparation for the Clemson game, didn't impact it at all. So just some things to consider, but I wanted to kind of hear your preparation style and if it ever makes it onto your sheet.
I think it would be foolish not to at least factor the fact that his name's being thrown out there, that he is potentially being contacted by other administrations. And anytime that anybody at any employer is looking for a new job or is approached about possibly changing employers, there's some level that it affects you as an employee. And I'm led to believe that in coaching, there's no difference, where you are being contacted about trying to possibly go somewhere else. They're going to talk money with you. You're going to get a significant pay raise. It absolutely will affect him. So I don't know necessarily if it's going to be, the end all be all as to why they may not play well, but we have seen it time and time again with coaches who finally get their name, kind of the buzz around them getting jobs, and we absolutely see it affect those teams. So I wouldn't be surprised here if that's the case.
It's time now for our G5 Underdog Moneyline Parlay, presented by DraftKings. Great call last week, Duck, on Coastal. You're 100% right. Their switch at quarterback has made them a live dog basically in every game moving forward this season. We'll see how quickly the market reacts to that. We could have hit the Underdog Parlay if Air Force had pulled it out, losing at the buzzer. I got to give credit to Army, though. They played like they were an underdog. They were taking deep shots. They were doing things on 4th down, being aggressive, particularly at the end of that game. A lot of coaches, after turning the ball over, blowing the lead late, would not have turned around and gone for it on 4th down again at midfield. But that's why Army has a great coaching staff. Talk about, Munkin, someone who I'm shocked has not been offered a better job over the years. Maybe he has, and he just has an affinity for West Point and he wants to stay there for the rest of his career. That could certainly be the case. But they pull it out. They ruin the parlay for us. So let's get it started first with your pick. You're hot. Tell me what you got this week.
I really like Tulsa plus 150, best numbers over at DK. FAU has just shown me nothing that makes me believe that they are capable of stopping any of their opponents. And this offense is just so jerky at times. It requires fourth down conversions, and they are so heavily reliant on Easton Messer to move the ball. If Messer and Veldkamp are not connecting, or if they fail on fourth down, they set their opponents up big time with short fields, and it is just really high variance, high risk, high reward. Now, that can be real trouble in some of these coin flip type of games. Tulsa has played pretty good football in recent. They hung in there with ECU for a while. They took a much improved Temple squad to the wire. I really like what I've seen from Baylor Hayes the last 2 weeks, 550 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The kicker for me is FAU's red zone efficiency has been horrific this season. The empty trips and kicking field goals, that's not going to get it done here against Tulsa, and the Golden Hurricane will definitely make you pay. So I like how this team has matured week to week. I think Trey Lamb is starting to get some things figured out with this group, and I think they go out there and win this game on the field. So I'm getting a little bit of extra candy here. I'll take it.
All right, for my side of this, I'm going with another true coin flip at plus 105 on the market, and that's Jacksonville State up against UTEP. I mean, UTEP, where is the love in the market coming for this UTEP team? They're 1-3 in CUSA play. All 3 losses, by the way, by double digits. Yes, Locklear is an upgrade at quarterback, but he's only a real difference maker if he's consistently doing it with his legs. He's not accurate enough downfield to pose any real threat there. And Jacksonville State has done a nice job of containing mobile quarterbacks this year. Hunter Watson, Ethan Basco, both Central Florida quarterbacks in the opener. They can contain, they can spy, they can limit his improvisational moments. I think, when the plays break down. And if he's not hitting those and getting to, let's call it 60 rushing yards, I don't really see where it's coming from with this UTEP offense. And then on the other side, can this UTEP defense stop this run game? And there's some things that would lead you to believe that they can. They tackle well. They have a strong stuff rate. They're 16th in the country there. They only have one issue, though, and it's giving up big plays. 106 in ground explosives allowed. That's why they lost to Monroe. They gave up 250 on the ground in that game, including a 40-yard touchdown, I think it was to McReynolds, and a 72-yard run to the backup running back. That blew that game wide open for them. Cam Cook, on the other side of this, that's the scariest man that you can face in Conference USA. He leads the nation in rushing. He also leads the nation in yards after contact and broken tackles. So in terms of their one bugaboo, like if they could put it up on the chalkboard, it's like as long as we don't have a super explosive guy who breaks a lot of tackles and has a lot of breakaway runs, then we're safe. Cam Cook is walking through that door. I'll stick with the Cox here. I'll take him outright to win. All right, that was our Moneyline Parlay presented by DraftKings. Check out the Parlay Express account in the free award-winning Action Network app where we will be posting the G5 Moneyline Parlay. You'll also find a bunch of other long shots and parlays in there as well. You can also find the quick slip link in the podcast and video descriptions or visit actionnetwork.com/betnow to find and tail some of the bets we've discussed thus far in the episode. All right, it's 2-minute drill time. I will go second. I already gave out my thoughts on the Roadrunners catching points against South Florida. Walk me through your FCS leans here, Duck.
Yeah, South Dakota State, massive G5 rivalry between two proud FCS programs, USD and South Dakota State. These two teams do not like each other, and the series has pretty well been dominated by the Jacks. SDSU humbled, embarrassed, ashamed last week after losing to Indiana State as 31.5-point favorites. It was not good. These guys are pissed. Dan Jackson is challenging his team this week. I would expect a much more crisp performance, much better situational execution. The Coyotes are off an impressive win against North Dakota last week, but this team is really going to struggle here to run the football, and their passing attack is not nearly talented enough to throw them out of trouble or to play from behind. USD is much softer in the trenches than we've come to know and love from the Yotes. SDSU is going to win this game. Anything under a touchdown, we're good there. Next one, Robert Morris and Wagner. Projected total is 44.5. Both these teams are run heavy and operate at an extremely slow pace. I would expect we see a ton of early down rushing, first and second down runs. Very, very few explosive plays here on the ground or through the air from both of these offenses. And both of these defenses will have the significant upper hand against the opposition. Anything with a number of 40.5 or higher, we're going to go to the under. Last one, Jackson State. Projected spread is 26.5. Just an absolute fade of Mississippi Valley State, who's given up 40 points per game in each of their last 3 against FCS competition. This secondary is one that is getting torched on the frequent. And Jackson State quarterback Jacobian Morgan, an absolute excellent football player at this level, a name to know, a guy that's going to throw the ball all over the field against the Delta Devils. Jackson State should put up 45 to 49 points, and Mississippi Valley will not be able to keep up. If we're laying anything under 31 when these lines come out, I'm going to hit Jackson State.
Time for the rest of my 2-minute drill after UTSA catching. Hopefully it lands on 14 by the time you're listening to this. I'm going to go Georgia Southern App State over 62.5. Georgia Southern, App State, 62.5. Georgia Southern, worst run defense in the belt, still lousy against the pass, and they're facing a passing team that goes at a NASCAR tempo. App State, defensively on the other side of things, they can't stop the run. You know, when you look at some of the momentum of these other Sun Belt teams, the metrics may say that they're decent against the run. I question that a little bit. I think more of it has to do with game flow, but they're completely lost in every sense of the word on the back end when it comes to pass defense. 105th in coverage, 121st in aerial explosives allowed. And last week in the Georgia Southern Arkansas State game, the total, as you know, Duck, 59.5. Final score, 34-24 Red Wolves. That game included an interception in the end zone, not 1, not 2, but 3 field goals from inside opponent's 10-yard line, and over 800 yards of total offense. If that game had gone over, as it should, the Eagles would be 7-1 to overs in their games this year. So, I mean, their games are clearing by an average of 6.8 points per game. That's the best, or excuse me, the 8th best in the G5 this year in terms of overs. So I think this one is due. I think it's off by about 3 or 4 points. There's some key numbers, if you focus in on that, with totals that it's going to clear. So I think this will be played closer to 70. All right, let's finish it off with a little bit of balance, which is an under here between Temple and Army, under 46.5. Listen, Air Force and Navy have reimagined what a service academy offense can be in terms of explosiveness, in terms of run-pass balance, in terms of formational variety, going to shotgun, going to pistol. Army is still good old Army when it comes to the triple option, which I love. And when you look at it, the last 5 weeks, their games have averaged a total of 37 points. They come in, they've hit 6 of the last 7 unders, and Temple likes to play slow. It's a perfect dance partner for this game to have limited possessions, to have those long drives, some real under porn. Temple 110th in plays per game, 118th in seconds between plays. Army's offensive explosiveness completely out the window this year, 87th. Temple's offense, by the way, looked a little bit broken at home against East Carolina. I know we love Casey Keeler on this program. He's done an incredible job in North Philly. But at this point, the offense is stuck in the mud just a little bit, and having a game where you could have the ball punted and not get it back for 8 or 9 minutes is not the recipe to start getting into an offensive rhythm. This is also Temple's second look at an option offense this year. Could we get an emotional letdown? Final piece here. Army just beat Air Force, traveling across the country. They come back here. I don't know. I think there's an opportunity for there to be at least one scoreless quarter in this game with 2 teams that are kind of looking for momentum to get started. It's going to be a beautiful day at Mikey Stadium on the Hudson River. It's a great game to go 17-10, 17-13. I was surprised to see it in the mid-40s. I play it down to 44.5. Any thoughts there on the end? I know you played a lot of Temple football this year. Against Navy is a game they should have won. They gave up a lot of points in yardage, but I think that's more a testament to Navy's explosiveness and veteran quarterback than it is to Temple's inability to potentially step up against a triple option offense.
Yeah, and I think the emotional letdown is real, and I think it's interesting, Army coming off playing Air Force. There's something to be said about when service academies play each other. I think this is a game Temple can win. I think Temple can go out there with Evan Simon, throw it around on that Army secondary, and I think Temple is live to win the game. Should be a fun game. I think, Georgia Southern, App State, hated rivals from back in the FCS days. 2 schools that don't like each other, and we should see a ton of points here as long as that game goes according to plan and we don't have any of the goofy stuff, which we shouldn't have because Arkansas State's not playing in it. So we should be according to plan there, and we should have tons of points with Georgia Southern and App State. I like that over.
Speaking of an emotional letdown, here we are, the Tug-Of-War we've been doing all season long. I'm at your 5-yard line. I let you pick between Vandy and Texas. You take Diego away from me, but everything was going right. I was cruising. I was going to win this thing, and then end up getting a push with some backdoor scoring there at the end. Plenty of people cash tickets. I believe it closed at 3.5 for some people out there. So fantastic for Diego and his backers. Fantastic for you. You got second life here. I have this feeling that I'm right here on the doorstep, and not being able to punch it in may haunt me. But we are going to go to the islands for a team that I loved in the preseason. They've certainly brought me a lot of gambling joy over the years. That's the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. I'm going to take them plus 6.5 against San Diego State. And I'm going to make my case real quick here. I got a quarterback that I believe in as a home dog. I like that combination. Micah Alejado has fought through injuries, and now that he's healthy, he's looked absolutely electric. Last 4 games, get ready for his average. 385 yards per game through the air with 3 passing TDs per game. With this receiving core healthy, it's pick your poison time. And leaving Jackson open, that guy is you just throw it up, jump ball it. He's going to get it, particularly in the end zone. All of a sudden, Alejado is looking like the chosen one that he was built up to be coming into the season. They already have bowl eligibility. Even when they're losing, they're going down swinging. So I look at this, too, on the other side of things. I figure you're going to bring all of San Diego State's bona fides on the defensive side of the ball. They got the best defense in the G5. Well, let's look at some of these teams that they've been playing. Northern Illinois, Colorado State, Nevada, Fresno, Wyoming. Not a murderer's row. PFF offensive ranking for the Huskies, NIU, 128th. Colorado State, 113th. Then they fire their head coach. Nevada, 123rd. Fresno had to start a kid in his very first FBS start. Now, granted, I think he's pretty good coming up from the FCS ranks, but he looks a little bit overwhelmed. And then Wyoming, 120th in PFF offensive rank. So I'm going to pay to see it, to see this defense absolutely shut down, the run and shoot offense that Timmy Chang has reinstated in its fullness. It's back to being a fun brand of football to watch. I mean, for years, it was like just they didn't have the right pieces, or if the quarterback worked, the offensive line was Swiss cheese. Everything is there. I think it's going to be difficult for San Diego State to maintain their level of play on the defensive side of the ball. I think they've overachieved. And listen, that's credit to them. You can only play who's on your schedule. They've beaten the hell out of these teams lately, but I don't think that that's necessarily prepared them for what they're going to see in the Pacific. But you're on the Aztecs, so this is your opportunity. This is your last stand. You got to bow your neck. You did last week. Let's see if you can do it again.
Yeah, and I looked at Hawaii's prowess offensively in recent weeks, and I kind of looked at it the same way you did with San Diego State's defense. What defenses have they shredded? Air Force, Utah State, Colorado State, and San Jose State are all really, really bad Mountain West defenses. These guys from San Diego State, the best defense in the conference, top tackling team, top coverage team, solid at stopping the run. They have allowed 7.5 points the last 6 weeks per game. They're just, nobody's scoring on them. They're forcing turnovers. They're getting to the quarterback. Hawaii has struggled at times with protecting Alejado and with sacks and negative plays. And if anyone can thwart this offense, it's the Aztecs. After playing those 4 Charmin soft defenses, I think Hawaii is really going to be up against it offensively. Hawaii struggled in recent games stopping the run. I think San Diego State will get that ground game going. I think they will outpossess Hawaii. I think they will play the field position game like they have in their last several games this year. And I just think that this is going to be a slow burning grinder. I think it'll be very similar in nature to how Hawaii's game against Fresno State looked. And San Diego State's the best team in the Mountain West. They're going to win this league. They're going to win this game. And I'm getting under a touchdown. I'm going to take the Aztecs here.
All right, that'll do it for today's episode of the Group of 5 Deep Dive under the Big Bets on Campus banner presented by DraftKings. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. It's been long overdue. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of the 5-star reviews. We're going to give out a $25 future. So let's take a look here. All right, big winner is Marlin's Woman. This pod has made me so much better betting college football. Group of 5 is really essential if you're serious about making money. The analysis is very clear and makes sense. Very good for people new betting and for anyone who wants to understand it in greater depth. So Marlin's Woman, if you're listening, reach out to me over on Twitter at East Breeze, and I will get you hooked up with a free $25 future. you want to bet on a parlay this weekend, whatever you want to do, just want to keep the money in the gambling universe, happy to help you out there. And we're going to keep doing this throughout the entire season. So please keep hitting us up with those 5-star reviews. It helps us so much in terms of our reach, in terms of people scrolling through looking for a new sports podcast. They're going to gravitate to those that have lots of reviews and lots of 5-star reviews. Also, go ahead and remember to tail some of the bets that we've talked about in this episode, and you can do that by following the quick slip link in the episode description. You can also go to actionnetwork.com/betnow. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, search for BBOC, and you'll be able to have access to all of our tape shows, as well as getting reminders for our live show every Saturday at 10:30 Eastern. Thanks for listening to the Big Bets on Campus podcast, and best of luck with all your bets.